I want to welcome everyone to the International Elephant Foundation's Conservation Chat. We're absolutely thrilled that you're here to join us today, and I know we have people from all corners of the globe. And we're promising a really fascinating and insightful discussion today about elephant conservation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie Bates. I'm the Donor Relations Manager for IEF. We have some other staff members on the line with us today too. Our Executive Director, Deborah Olson, and our Director of Conservation, Sarah Conley. Before we dive in though, I wanted to go over a few quick housekeeping notes to ensure that we have a very smooth and engaging session. Once we get started, I ask everybody to just please keep your mics off to minimize the background noise. Also, we'd like for you to keep your cameras off because it helps save bandwidth because we have people that might be plugging in from who knows across the world. Also, just to let everybody know, we are recording this chat so we can make it available to people who weren't able to make it today for the live recording. And also, as our presenters go through their presentations, if you have questions for them, if you would put those in the chat, and we will get to your questions with a Q&A session towards the end. Without further ado, I'm going to reintroduce you to Sarah Conley, our Director of Conservation, and she's going to tell you a little bit about our speakers.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us today. We have a really special conservation chat for you. As you know, we normally connect you with leaders from IEF-supported projects around the world, but today we are focusing on elephants in human care, and we are joined currently by 2, but perhaps by 4 members of the AZA Elephant TAG. We have Lauren Ripple from Dallas Zoo and Vernon Presley from the Fresno Chaffee Zoo, and perhaps even Adam Feltz from Columbus Zoo and David Hagan from Jacksonville Zoo. The Association of Zoos and Aquariums AZA Elephant Taxonomic Advisory Group, or the Elephant TAG, provides leadership, expertise, and strategic direction for the care, conservation, and management of both African and Asian elephants in AZA-accredited zoos and related institutions. We are so excited to have them here so they can share more about their important work with everyone. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
All
And it looks
right.
like David joined us as well.
Oh,
Yes,
wonderful.
no, thank you for inviting us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. We're so happy you're here. So why don't we jump into the first part of, I guess, Vernon, you're taking the first section, right?
Yes. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, again, my name is Vernon Presley. I'm an animal curator here at the Fresno Chaffee Zoo. This part of the presentation, Adam Feltz from Columbus was going to do it, but he's in India right now. So he knew it was going to be roll the dice whether he could make it or not. So I'll jump in and kind of channel my inner Adam and do my best. Lauren and David here will of course chime in if I'm missing anything or misrepresent any points Adam may put. But we'll get started with a general overview of AZA in general and the animal programs that they run. Just fast. Oh, great. There we go. Okay, so we got lots of different groups of people. On the upper right, that group of orange squares, that's AZA. And AZA is run by the board of directors, and the board of directors are usually zoo directors from around AZA institutions that are elected into that position. AZA itself has a number of employees that report to the board of directors as well. Underneath there as well is the AZA Conservation Welfare Management Science Department. And underneath that is the Animal Population Management Committee. You may hear us say APM. This is just kind of one branch of AZA. The board of directors and AZA are the 2 main parts over all of AZA. And then we have the animal population part that has the CWMS and the Animal APM Committee. The far left, we have another part of AZA, which happens to be the facilities themselves. So we have the accredited and the accredited related facilities, and they are usually run by a director. And each facility has an institutional liaison that usually is the director. Now, underneath those sections there, we have something called Taxonomic Advisory Groups, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. Generally speaking, the tags are composed of officers. So there's the chair, the vice chair, secretary, and treasurer, and works in conjunction with the tag officers are the steering committee. And they are made up of representatives from institutions, members of the APM committee, and the tag IRs, institutional representatives. Each facility has a representative for each taxon. So we do have the elephant tag, and each facility that has elephants, or even some that used to have elephants or may be getting back in elephants, have an IR as well. And then to help the tag officers in the steering committee are the advisors, but we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. Now, under the tags, there are various species survival plans or SSP programs, and those are usually made up of an SSP coordinator, a vice coordinator, usually a management group, but not all of them may have that, and of course the SSP institutional representatives. For example, there's the rhino tag as well, and I'm also the IR for the rhino tags as opposed to the elephants. And all these IRs are usually a curator or a manager level, but there are many institutions that may choose to have some of the animal care professionals be the IR for certain species. And then finally, we have the regional stud books, and we have stud bookkeepers, and Lauren Ripple is a stud bookkeeper for the African elephants, and she's going to dive a little bit deeper into what stud books are and how they help run SSP programs. Let's dive a little bit deeper into tags. Overall, AZA has 42 different tags. Like I said, there's the elephant tag, there's a giraffe and antelope tag, we have a rhinoceros tag, a variety of different birds and reptile and invertebrate tags. Generally speaking, these tags, like I said before, are the chair, the vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and the steering committee. Now, the responsibilities of these tags are numerous. They're responsible for formulating animal care manuals. And those are kind of in-depth husbandry manuals to help animal care professionals do best practices when it comes to care of the species that we are looking after. They also oversight the species survival programs. They develop regional collection plans, which we'll talk a little bit about. And they also work with our conservation partners as well. Another thing that we do is that if there is research proposals associated with certain species or a taxon, they go to the tag for approval. We do have a member of our steering committee where all elephant-related research proposals go to her. She sends them out to the steering committee. We discuss and we vote whether they get tag endorsement or not. And tag endorsement, a lot of times is very important for these researchers because that helps them gain, let's say, credibility, but also helps them gain some grants as well. So specifically the elephant tag, David is our illustrious leader. He is our tag chair, and he's also the SSP coordinator or the program lead for the African elephants. I fill the role of vice tag and the vice coordinator for the African elephants. We do have an Asian elephant SSP coordinator. That's Adam Feltz from Columbus. Mara Davis from Denver is the vice coordinator. Stud bookkeepers, we have Lauren Ripple. She's from the Dallas Zoo, and she also serves as the tag and SSP secretary for the African elephants, as well as being the stud bookkeeper. And finally, Sean Fennell from White Oak Conservation Foundation. He is the Asian elephant stud bookkeeper. So lots of levels and lots of organizations, but we all know our role and who to report to. And even though I gave you a very quick overview and it may seem a little complex, it does, believe it or not, actually work quite well. Now, our steering committee, it's elected by the IRs, and every single year we have a call for elections, and this really is a peer-driven program. AZA does not appoint the steering committee, it's all the IRs. So if we have, every institution that has elephants has an IR, and they get to choose and nominate people going for the steering committee. And this is our current steering committee. I think it's three or four each year, 3 or 4 positions are up and they get reelected. Lauren, how many is it?
Yeah, it's 4 positions each
4.
year and serve a 3-year term.
Gotcha. So Brian from Smithsonian, Nate Alger from Zoo Atlanta, Rachel Emery from Oklahoma Zoo, Christina Gorshutz from Cincinnati, Adam Feltz from Columbus. We have Steve LaFave from Oregon Zoo, Nick Newby from the White Oak Conservation Center, Sarah Armstrong for the Omaha Zoo, Mara Davis from Denver Zoo, Daryl Hoffman from San Antonio, and Mindy Albright from San Diego Zoo Safari Park. We're actually really happy with our steering committee. We feel that it represents a very diverse group of people. And we want a diverse group, and we welcome open and different viewpoints. So we make sure that we don't get pigeonholed and narrow-minded in our view. So the best thing we can do for our steering committee is the IRs elect a group of people that are very diverse, from small institutions, large institutions, and represent a variety of different elephant programs. We have lots of advisors. Advisors are very important because even though the steering committee and the tag leadership usually have quite a bit of animal experience, we are not all knowing by no means. So we rely on a bunch of people to help us make educated decisions when we come to making tag recommendations and to help formulate our program. We have one for behavior, education, nutrition, public relations, reproduction. All those people on this page are integral, and we will call on them every so often, depending on what comes up. We continue our advisors. We have research people, small population management, and we'll talk a little bit about what their role is. Any veterinary issues we may have, we have someone we can lean on, pathologists and field conservation. We have two SAFE programs, an Asian elephant and an African elephant program. And if you want to learn more about AZA SAFE, you can go to the AZA website. It's Saving Animals from Extinction, and there's a variety of SAFE programs that are spearheaded by AZA. For the tag, we have one for Asian elephants where Adam Feltz is the main driver for that. And for the African elephant, it's just still brand new. We're still formulating that. We're hoping to get that all sorted out by the end of the year. And we have Corey from Jacksonville and Nikki from Indianapolis that are spearheading that process. We rely on Sharon and Louisa for well-being issues we may have, and a small population management advisory group are our population biologists to help us with our planning. So SSPs are been around in AZA for a very long time. They've all gone through different renditions of what an SSP is in different programs, but all SSPs are the same mission. That's to manage an XC2 species population with the interest and cooperation of AZA-accredited zoos and aquariums, sustainability partners, and accredited related facilities. So even though we have a lot amount of SSPs, they really do have the same mission. And we have 330 SSPs within AZA. Historically, there's been over 500. Just recently, there's been a reimagination or a retooling of the SSPs, because we're finding out that not all the SSPs were being very successful, and we're spreading our resources thin over 500 programs. We did a deep dive and try to come up with some kind of criteria and really kind of focus on the species that we really think we can make a difference. In the species survival programs, there are two different types. There's provisional and signature SSPs. SSPs are normally made up of a coordinator, like David is the SSP program leader for African elephants. The vice coordinator, like I said before, could have management group, IRs, and a population biologist. Won't go too deep into that, but there is a criteria. What's the cut? We had to cut some. What is, to be part of the SSP club, what do you have to do? Well, the majority of the managed population, so over 50% of the animals in that species, have to be housed within AZA member facilities. The program is not externally managed. This could include cooperative managed programs where final approval of breeding transfers, husbandry, or reintroductions of animals that are managed in AZA facilities falls in, or make a partnership with external facilities. Our breeding have to exceed acquisitions from non-AZA sources over the last 5 years. or the generation growth, whatever is longer. And we have to have species that's held in at least 15 AZA facilities. So we had to, all the SSP leaderships had to fill out surveys to see if they make those 4 criteria and see if they're eligible to become an SSP. Don't expect you to read this, but this is a very extended flow chart that tells us yes or no whether we are going to be an SSP eligible or not. And these are tools that were sent out to the SSP leadership by the Population Management Committee to help us make those decisions. Now, there's a lot of common questions about SSPs. A big one is who has a say when it comes to recommendations. Well, the big answer is everybody has a say. And the reason why we say everybody has a say is because it's the community themselves that elects the people on the steering committee that helps makes the decisions. SSPs may choose to engage IRs, institution representatives, at any given time, but it is a democratic process where a lot of decisions are made with the steering committee who was elected by those people within the community. Recently, AZA just had, I don't know, David, it was a 2-year plus, maybe 3-year plus process of going through elephants within AZA facilities. And it was made sure that there was a wide range of people that had says and has a say within the future of elephants. We had people from facilities that have elephants, do not have elephants, people that are population biologists, behaviorists, veterinarians, we had all kinds of people. So for the most part, I would say, especially the elephant one, we do reach out and get a say with everybody. If somebody says they do not have a say, I will go my soapbox and say, then get involved, right? There's ways you can get involved within the organization and make sure that different opinions and viewpoints are represented within all our decisions. Now, animals do leave the SSP sometimes. They may move into facilities that are no longer AZA. We may have facilities that no longer are accredited. So they do leave the SSP. Now, for the most part, they're not part of our program. And a lot of times we don't consider them in a lot of decisions unless we make an agreement with them. There are sustainability partners out there that we can go and kind of lean on. But for the most part, it's not like they've disappeared off the face of the earth, but our recommendations from a tag standpoint don't really apply to people, animals that are out our SSPs. But there's times we make partnerships with them and they would agree to some SSP recommendations. Some animals are government-owned species, and that can make it difficult because they would have the final say. A lot of these government institutions by themselves are not members of AZA, so they are not obligated to in any ways fall into line or follow SSP recommendations. So that can be a challenge at times. David or Lauren, these questions that Adam threw up there, anything you want to add to those?
You covered it beautifully.
Okay, I felt like I was scrambling a little bit, but okay. So that's all we have for that first section. Sarah, do we want to pause here and ask for questions, or should we move on to the next presentation?
I think let's move on, and then everyone can kind of collate their thoughts all at once.
Perfect. Okay, so next is Lauren's going to be talking about stud books. I'm not going to let her speak yet. We'd have a hard time running these programs without the stud book keepers. And Lauren does an excellent job with the keepers of the numbers. I know David and myself several times have to ask Lauren for an update. We just did a tag meeting, we did an update, and I can guarantee that David and I numbers probably wouldn't be matching exactly what it is if it wasn't for Lauren helping us out. And she's the keeper of all African elephants. So I will hand it all over to Lauren. You can teach us about stud books.
All right, thank you, Vernon. So I only have 3 slides. It's saying AZA regional stud books. And then the purpose is to document the pedigree of the entire demographic history of each animal. Vernon just talked about SSP coordinator. We work with the Population Management Center for genetics and all sorts of advice from them. Work directly with the TAG, all the other AZA institutions and non-AZA institutions and APM. But a big part of the stud book is to monitor and document all the births, deaths, and transfers. And then again, coming up with helping with the recommended breeding decisions based on genetics, and then assessing the population. So what we're gonna do is look at the actual stud book, and I'll go through some of the things with you guys. So on the side here, we have the living population. Historical population was 610. These suggested pop up when there's animals that are born or an animal that has passed away. If your institution uses ZIMS, this will generate automatically for me, and I won't have to track things down. There are a handful of zoos that do not use ZIMS, so I have to get updates from them every year. The living population also includes private owners with African elephants, and same with Asian elephants. So there's a lot you can do here. If you go to general, we can look at a lot of different things. Like if I just want to look at males, we can versus females. If anybody has bred versus not, you know, if I wanted to look at wild captures versus, you know, born in human care, age group. So there's a lot we could do here. I'm just going to go through a few things. So we'll go through institutions, AZA. I should have pointed up here too. So you see the 213, but we have 56 males and 157 females in 48 institutions. So once we look at just the AZA population, and this takes a second, we have 186 right now with 52 males, 134 females, and 34 institutions. We just gained 3 facilities this past year, over the past year. So that would be animals entering the SSP. Vernon had talked about animals exiting the SSP, and we're going to get a little more specific, and we'll look at some of our Dallas Zoo elephants. So currently we have 2.6 elephants. If we want to do a deeper dive on the side here, you can see who all has had offspring. So this is Malilo, one of our females. She's had 2 offspring. Tindaji has sired 2 offspring. If we want to look at an individual elephant, we'll pick Gypsy here. So Gypsy, estimated birth was 1982. She was born in the wild. She's currently housed at Dallas. This is her local ID and house name. Tells you female over here. Since she was wild, her sire and dam are wild. If you look at transactions, you can see what her estimated birth was. She was born in Zimbabwe, so she was part of that Arthur Jones Nautilus import that came in 1984 with, I think, like 60 other elephants, something like that. And this is just her transaction history. So she's been at the Dallas Zoo since March 31st of 2009. Everything that you have to put in the stud book to add a new elephant is these top 4 things: transactions, parents, taxonomy, and sex. And then once you have those 4 bits of information, then you can add a new elephant to the stud book. So I was actually going to show you Jackson. Let me back up for a second. So Jackson is a bull that is in Pittsburgh. So we can also look at a descendant list when we're looking at these animals. So if you go up here to pedigree, you can see a descendant list. So he's been very prolific over the years. He has not had 30. If you look down here, these are the generations removed. So Callie was his offspring. And another cool way to look at all this is this explorer mode. So this is Jackson right here. And then you have Callie. Callie has been very prolific at Omaha and Sedgwick. He's had 5 calves at Sedgwick and 3 live calves at, 5 calves at Omaha and 3 live calves at Sedgwick. If you look at the dotted line here, that's because they still have to do paternity testing on these calves. More than likely they're Callies, but they're also tied to another bull. And then these are also second generation, these outliers here. With that, you can also look at on any of the lists we have, if the animals are alive or dead, you know, what their birth dates were, their current age, all sorts of different things. Another good thing with the stud book is the tools. So every year I go and produce a census report. So if you look at since 2022, like we had in 2022, 125 wild born, then 121 and 118, because some of those, our population is still bottleneck where we have older elephants, so they're aging out of the population. But then you see how our captive born is increasing each year. Here is lambda, so if it's at 1, that means we have a stable population that's not growing but not decreasing either. If we go across and look in 2022, since 2022, we had 5 births that year, 7 births in 2023, 6 births in 2024. We've actually had 6 births this year. Unfortunately, not all those calves have survived this year. And then you can look at deaths. So let me see, I was looking at one. So in 2023, we had 7 captive births, 6 deaths, but the lambda is below 1. And that's because we had 2 elephants exit the SSP population. So this census is just the AZA population. And then that year, we've had a lot of transfers the past few years. So it also tracks how many elephants were moving around to different AZA facilities. Another cool thing with the tools is you could go to the reproductive dashboard. And so for females, this one is the earliest first reproduction was almost 9 years of age. Oldest first reproduction was 33 years of age. That's a little deceiving because we did years ago lose a lot of elephants that reproduced after 24. So that was probably not successful. And then if you look at reproductive span, same thing, 9 years. And then we've now had our oldest female was 44 and a half years old when she gave birth, and that's Renee at Toledo Zoo. So she really made that a wider span for that age group. Last reproduction, we had a 10-year-old, and then again, Renee, 44 and a half. And then breeder life expectancy, the shortest lived passed away at 14 years, and the oldest 56, almost 57 years. So you can look at the same things for males. Youngest sire was at 9 years of age. Oldest so far was at 30 years of age. Same thing, 9, and then reproductive span. Older sire I don't know why those two are different. Oh, first reproduction. So last reproduction was 43 and a half. Same thing with this one. These are going to be the same numbers. And then short lived breeder 15. So there's all sorts of things you can look at on the stud book. That was really like all I had to share right now, a short form. We get a lot of research requests, and I'll dive through the data to potentially help out any of the people that have questions. And just here's the historic. So well, that's not right, 80 years of age, but you know, first elephant in the stud book was at Philadelphia. So yeah, that's pretty much all I was going to talk about with stud books. That went a little faster than I thought it was going to be. I thought the internet was going to give me a little bit of trouble too, but I think I'm passing it back off to Vernon. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Lauren. That was excellent.
Yeah, for all you data hungry people, man, that's an exciting thing. I am not data hungry person. Okay, do you see this next one, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about recommendations and the process that we go through to make recommendations for the elephants that are within the SSP. Oh, I gotta get over here. So we produce a lot of different AZA documents, and there's different timelines. Every 5 years, we have to put something together that's called a regional collection plan. And what this has is it's basically a strategic document to help guide the management of different animal populations. It helps specify which species should be managed and the optimum population levels and required space needed. Elephants, kind of easy. We have 2 species and they both met. Remember before I talked about the eligibility parts of it, both those species met the eligibility for an SSP. If you're, some of the reptile tags have lots of different species. Not all of them will meet the requirements for an SSP, which means that they're not going to be an AZA managed population. Every 3 years, we produce something called a breeding and transfer plan. And what this is are basically recommendations regarding different animal transfers and who should breed with who. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Also, every 3 years, Lauren has to produce a regional stud book. That's kind of the official updates to the individuals within the population. It is an ongoing process for Lauren to keep it live, but officially it needs to be published every 3 years. Now, every year, we do an annual tag report. And that annual tag report is basically an update on tag business and helps define the goals for the upcoming year for the SSP. Other documents that get produced are something called population viability analysis, or PVA. And those are usually produced by the population biologists. So all these documents that we put together is collecting data and are tools for us to help make the best decisions for our populations. So it helps identify key factors, the demographics, and our genetic status. So let's talk a little bit about the B&T process. Like I said, occurs every 3 years, and traditionally we meet at the Population Management Center at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. We generally have 1 day dedicated to the Asian population and 1 day dedicated to the African population. Some people choose to come in person and they will come for both days. Sometimes they just come for one, depending what species they have in their facility. Or there's also an option to join virtually as well in order to represent their facility. And this is where we review breeding status of the population and make any recommendations for any transfers that will help the population's success. Before we do that, facilities fill out what's called a wants and needs survey. And there's a website or software called PMC Track. And that helps gather information that we can need to help make decisions. Basically, we're looking for an update of, how many elephants you have. Are they healthy? How much space do you have for elephants? Are you looking to move elephants out? Are you looking to bring more elephants in? So let's say it's kind of a wish list to help us make plans, and each facility gets representative so we can kind of get an idea of what their needs and wants are, and hopefully they match what is best for the population. So the goal at this meeting is to have every reproductively viable animal in a breeding situation. Sometimes we do interim recommendations. So every 3 years, we do this breeding and transfer program, population planning, but things come up. Facilities may ask for recommendations within or in between those 3 years. And there's different reasons for that. We will then go back and refer to the wants and needs surveys that the facilities put out. We help identify potential transfers or breeding changes and additions. And some facilities may have a change in their social hierarchy. They may choose that they want to phase out animals. They may say that they've lost some animals and they want other animals for social compatibility, or to put another animal in a more viable breeding situation. So lots of different reasons why they would contact us. If we have more than one facility that meets the needs of the requests, we formulate a survey and it gets sent to each of those facilities that could potentially meet those. So it's public knowledge that Utah Hogle Zoo wanted to move their elephants out. So we decided to do an interim recommendation. There are several facilities that are interested in those elephants. So David led the charge with myself and Lauren as well with Utah to help identify facilities that could be a good fit. So we send out surveys to gather information to help ourselves and Utah pick the best choice for those elephants. They know the elephants best. So they can know whether it's a good social system for that. And then we know the genetics and the needs of the population better. We try to mesh that all together and bring the facilities together and make that recommendation happen. It's important to know the elephant tag, we do not own any elephants whatsoever. Our goal is to make recommendations. And our recommendations are going to be based on what's best for the population, but also keep in mind what's best for the welfare of the individual animals as well. We can just sit back and play chess, and the elephants are just pieces on a board that we slide around. But these are living, very intelligent, complicated animals. So it's not simple as that. We have to engage with the facilities, and even though elephant A and elephant B seems to be the best choice, they may not be the best fit for those animals from a social standpoint or a wellness standpoint. So there's a lot of conversations that we make. We try to make everything mesh together. We introduce the parties, give them the recommendation, and we really rely on those parties to accomplish our recommendation. But we are always present to be used as a resource, or in rare cases as a moderator if there's some any points of contention, any issues that come up. So we are the dating service, right? We are the dating service, introduce people, say this is what we would like for the population, and they're going to work together. That's when they would sit back and discuss their individual elephants. We don't have to be involved in every conversation with at all. A lot of times they choose to visit each other's facility and learn more about each other's programs before they make a recommendation. And then they, of course, move forward with the fun part about who's paying for the move, how's the logistics going to happen. And they, once again, if there's any issues with that, we will step in and make recommendations or help as a moderator, or we will direct them. If you know, David, myself, or Lauren don't have the answer, we will direct them to somebody that will have the answer. And that's why you can really rely on our advisors as well to help them make some decisions. So that's kind of short and sweet in a nutshell of where we are and how we make recommendations. We want to make sure to at least leave, you know, a good 15-20 minutes for any questions you may have. Looks like we hit that part. So I will stop sharing and kick it back over to Sarah.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. We have a bunch of questions coming in. I think we should start with some foundational stuff. Lauren, you mentioned ZIMS. Can you explain what that program is to the lay people here?
Yeah, ZIMS is the program where the zoos that belong to it can put day-to-day information in for their animals. Same with vets, they'll put medical records in there. So anything that's happening, we'll keep track. So if you're a ZIMS institution and we send an elephant to another ZIMS institution, they automatically have all that information on them as well. So the stud book just works through ZIMS.
Excellent. And then going on with the stud book, you mentioned that some of the births and deaths, we have someone in the chat asking what could be some of those causes of the elephant deaths that you referenced?
I mean, elephant deaths obviously range the gamut. If they're referencing the calves, like we had a stillborn calf. So the mortality rate for females, I think, is around 24%, and males is a little higher than that, like first year mortality rate. So we've been honestly extremely lucky over the past, since at least 2022, that we haven't lost any calves, and the odds are, and just the numbers, eventually we're going to lose some at birth.
Absolutely. And everyone is devastated when that happens.
Yeah, long gestation. So it's hard to go through that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sarah, I'll jump in too, right? Sarah, I mean, like Lauren said, stillborn as well. But EHV is also something that we struggle with, both the Asian and the African population. That in itself is a conversation and probably a whole talking about EHV and the tremendous advances we've made in the care for that as well. So EHV is also responsible for a large portion of losing our calves.
Absolutely. And actually, with that in mind, when you guys make those sort of dating profile recommendations, do you keep things like EHV in mind? And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, I can jump in, and David and Laura can fill in the blanks. Absolutely, it is part of it. One of the groundbreaking things for EHV is just something called serology. So there's actually a blood test that you can do with the elephants and see if they have the antibodies to certain strains of elephants. The ideal situation with EHV, I'll try to use in a quick nutshell, is that they get their primary infection while they still have mom's immunity. They can fight that off and they develop their own natural antibodies. So if we have an elephant that is going to be transferred and we know it has serology or the antibodies for the variety of strains, because they're different for African and Asian elephants, that is something that that we would be discussing with that institution. What Utah did is they had elephants that were, especially the young one, that were not exposed to certain strains. So they did a plasma transfusion on the elephant. So they did a plasma transfusion, which gave that elephant some temporary antibodies. So when it got transferred over, there's a chance that in a new herd, there's going to be new animals. And if they haven't been infected with a certain strain, there's a chance that they're going to get infected with a strain because that's the first time they've been exposed to that. So what we do is in our recommendations, we have discussions saying, does that elephant have serology? If it doesn't have serology, then how can we do to set that animal up to succeed and make sure it's protecting? So that's actually some amazing tools that we never had just a few years ago, is that wasn't a consideration. So quite honestly, I think our transfers are going to be more successful when it comes to EHV, because we can identify whether they've had their primary infection, identify whether they're protected, and have some tools on board. And there's actually some vaccine. There's a vaccine for 1A, which is a strain for the Asian elephant that's proving amazing results so far. So quite honestly, I hope that the words EHV disappears in our discussions and never happens anymore. But we do have some tools that are jumping on board, but absolutely EHV has to be part of the discussion when it comes to transfers.
You're exactly right. As people who are regular attendees of the conservation chats know, they've seen Dr. Paul Ling talk, and he's the one that pioneered the serology and the vaccine. So IEF has supported his work for many years, and we're very proud to have been able to support his work. And we know Houston Zoo, another partner with all of us, they really spearheaded it with Dr. Ling. So this is a game changer when it comes to breeding and the future of elephants. Speaking of breeding, people are asking, are you guys talking about natural breeding or artificial insemination? Both? How does that work?
Hey, David, oh, never mind.
Go ahead. Well, we discussed both. So the past several years, honestly, natural breeding has been prolific, and that's what a lot of our recommendations are, is finding. We only still have, I think it's like 9 natural breeders, but that number is increasing within the African population. I'm not sure on the Asian side how many they have, but when we're looking at our recommendations, that's one of the things we're looking at, and looking at we're now getting to a point where we can look at more of the genetics and have better diversity with the genetics. We still have been encouraging people to collect semen on their bulls and train them, because there's still a handful of females out there that don't have access to a bull, but we would like to continue, getting pregnant through AI. And everything's collaboration. So when we're doing these AIs, it's several zoos. It takes a village to take care of these elephants. So several zoos working together to get a sample and get it to those females. But more now, natural breeding has been more prolific.
And as we go along, hopefully we'll continue to do more on the research side. So Indianapolis had a calf born from a mom that was born through artificial insemination. So carrying on that legacy. But as we go forward, one of the biggest challenges we'll face in leadership of the tag is how do we deal with male elephants? So the increase in reproduction leads to an increase in the number of males. As we go forward, that's something we'll have to manage as a group collectively, but also continue to look on the science side. How can we look at advances that have been made with artificial insemination, look at cryopreservation, and hopefully one day looking at gender selection to help turn the tide a little bit as we go forward. So we'll need science to lead us into the next 20 years to help us all out as we go forward.
That's a great point. It's so important that everyone's talking to each other and working together, including the research scientifically and all of that. Speaking of male offspring, we have someone from the ICC in Pittsburgh asking, what were the male offspring of Jackson that also had calves? Lauren, I think that's a you question.
Callie for sure. And there might have been one more bull that I'd have to look up, but Callie went to the Birmingham.
Maybe Savo, maybe too.
Oh yeah, Savo.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's Jackson. So Savo was another one. I think those are the two males that has had offspring.
That's great. Why don't we back up a little bit, and maybe each of you can tell us how you started in elephants to begin with, and sort of how you became the leaders in elephants in human care and things like that. Vernon, let's go you first.
I would say youngest to oldest, or oldest to youngest. I think I'm in the middle, so I'll start off first. Yeah, like a lot of animal people, you know, I grew up, of course, loving animals. You know, zoos are always an affordable place for families to go. So my parents brought, you know, our family to zoos a lot, and I actually kind of just fell in love with zoos because I just love seeing the animals. And then I got older and older, I started learning what zoos do. I went to University of Guelph, originally from the Toronto area, and got a degree in zoology, which has nothing to do with zoos, right? Just study of animals. And then I did an internship down at the Salisbury Zoo in Maryland. I worked for a small zoo just east of Toronto, and then I spent 19 years at the Toronto Zoo working with the elephants there. Won't go into it, but the Toronto Zoo Elephant Program did end, and I worked with a lot of really cool animals. I loved it, but it's not the same working with other animals, elephants. So I kind of got that bug. So my wife is also in the zoo. She was a supervisor in Toronto, and we made the bold move of just packing our family up and moving down to the US because that's availability. And we've been in Fresno now for about 11 years now. So lucky enough to work around these animals for about 30 years right now. And then, how do we get into a leadership role? I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with showing to get involved in it. You know, if you want to get involved, you work hard, you become part of the community, you develop relationships. You know, if you can work on your relationships, not be a crazy person, you know, show that you have some value and have an open mind. I think your peers see that as well. And I cannot become part of the leadership just me choosing to do so. It's your peers that choose for you, whether you're in that. So I feel fortunate. I guess I've done enough, you know, with those character traits to be supported by my community and my colleagues to be elected into this position.
Wonderful. How about you, Lauren?
So I was one of those. I was born in Texas. I went to Texas A&M, and I was going to be a vet. And I knew I wanted to work at zoos. I have no idea why I knew that, but vet route wasn't for me. So out of college, I got an internship at Lee Richardson Zoo in Garden City, Kansas. And after my internship, they offered me an elephant position. So I was there for 2 years. I was homesick, so got a job at the Fort Worth Zoo, not with elephants, for a little over 3 years. Did work with carnivores for almost 3 years there. And I was like, what? And when I first started, I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Leaving elephants. So elephants have always been my passion. And then this is my second tour at Dallas Zoo. So once Giants of Savannah, that was starting to develop in 2009 and it opened in 2010. I moved over to elephants here and was here for 6 years. Then I became the elephant manager at Sedgwick County Zoo, was fortunate twice to be able to, with Dallas and then at Sedgwick, to start new programs, new barns, mostly new elephants, new staff. So that was interesting experience and that I got to do it twice, and then was elephant manager at Sedgwick for almost 8.5 years, and then came back to Dallas. So I've been here for about a year. Same thing with leadership. Throughout my career with elephants, it's been around 18 years now. I've gone to different conferences, gone to EHV workshops, gotten to know my peers. My curator at Sedgwick is really the one that taught me about the leadership roles with the elephant tag. He was on the tag for over 20 years and he was ready to move on from elephant tag. So he taught me a lot of that and got me more involved in the AZA leadership side. So I did have guidance there, which I was very fortunate to have.
Seems to be a common thread with everyone is collaboration and guidance. How about you, David?
Yeah, no, actually, I got my start. I was interested in working outdoors and interested in wildlife and happened to join an explorer post at the Louisville Zoo. So I had the opportunity to work with animal care while I was in high school and college, got my degree, and the first job I got was at the Indianapolis Zoo. An opportunity to work with Debbie Olson, who everyone knows is a great leader, very inspirational. And one of the early things learning, working with Debbie, was that collaboration within the zoo and within the zoo community was important to elevate change and for zoos to continue to rise and raise standards. So it was a great opportunity to work with her and so many great people there. And the zoo drove a lot of science opportunity, which kept me at the zoo for over 3 decades. From the leadership standpoint, an opportunity to watch Debbie and what she did with the tag and other programs she ran, understanding that me as a person was quiet and reserved, but understood that working with people to build change and build collaboration was the one way for me to make a difference going forward. So an opportunity through seeing what she had done, what others were doing, and an opportunity to give back.
That's awesome. Well, as you all know, we're very fortunate to have Debbie leading us here. Dave, Debbie actually has a question directly for you. She wants to know, did Kajani just sire a calf?
Kajani just sire a calf. I'm drawing a blank. Do you know something I don't know?
Debbie, you may have to unmute.
Did I see something at Sedgwick County that a calf was recently born?
Yeah, so not a Johnny,
Yep.
or Callies and potentially Titans. They're still having to do paternity because I was at Sedgwick when all of them got pregnant. A Johnny, there might be one more that paternity wise, but unfortunately, probably not.
Yeah, the likelihood was low. I was hoping you'd learn something new for me.
And to explain, I put Kajani and I meant a Johnny. So,
Yes, that was throwing me for a lot of loops initially.
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. I still keep my hopes up for him, though, in general.
Yeah, just to explain to everybody on the call, Johnny was the first male African elephant born through artificial insemination at the Indianapolis Zoo, of which David played a huge role in accomplishing. So, yeah, hopefully someday he'll be dad.
On top of that, Indianapolis has the 2nd generation AI. Zahara's baby is the 2nd generation. So,
which is super exciting.
Yeah.
And really a testament to everyone working together. I don't know if people understand how many organizations and people are involved in making that happen. So thank you guys so much for bringing that up. And if anyone wants to sort of expound on what that process is, that might be good for people to learn.
Do you want to talk about it, Lauren, just from firsthand,
on the
from a
AI
collection
process?
standpoint?
Yeah, just about, all the different organizations that have to coordinate. You don't have to get into technical details, but everyone needs to work together.
So we have a list of all the males that facilities are able to collect on. And once the female, like I said, it's a lot of collaboration. Once the female is getting close to ovulating, they let us know about, a month in advance that, hey, this is going to happen. And then once she gets close to ovulating, we know like it's go time. And we collect for AI's day before ovulation, day of, and day after. We try to. Fresh sample is obviously best. Just like David was saying, we need to do more research and science on frozen semen and sexing in the future. Will be huge to help the population out. But yeah, in a nutshell, you're waking up early in the morning collecting, and then actually these days we just fly it on the plane. So one time I had Titan samples, and he got to ride in a first class seat while I was back in the back of the plane. So yeah, but hand deliver, because that stuff is like platinum, gold, or whatever the most valuable thing out there is. In a nutshell, it takes a lot of planning though, like a lot of planning.
It takes a lot of work to get a baby elephant. So thank you guys for that. I know we have a heart out for a lot of you. So let's start to wrap up. Thank you all for being here. David, Lauren, Vernon, you did excellent. I think this was a really interesting talk for people who are used to, talking to people, rangers and things in the field. So I think this is a good insight into elephants in human care and what goes into making sure the populations are sustainable and healthy and everyone working together. So thank you all for being here. I know, just so everyone knows, we have the 21st International Elephant Conservation and Research Symposium coming up at the end of this year in Fort Worth, actually hosted at the Fort Worth Zoo. It's going to be December 5th through 8th. We're very excited, and everyone is welcome, of course. Let me turn it over to Julie real quick.
I just want to thank everybody and the presenters today for this fascinating talk. I want to invite all the people on the call today to go ahead and turn your cameras on, and let's give our presenters a big round of applause. Thank you so much for such a fascinating talk. I know that we have some donors here on the line that really learned a lot about what happens in zoos. So this was really, really great. Thank you so much for everything.